The deBraga family has deep roots in the rich soil of Fallon, Nevada, where they have played a significant role within the Stillwater ranching communities for generations. Their story is one of preservation, dedication, and commitment to family and community. The deBraga family journey in Fallon began in the early 1900s when Joe and Marguerite deBraga moved their family to the area. This move was inspired by the completion of the Newlands Project, a government project that provided much-needed irrigation to the Lahontan Valley. This project transformed the arid land into fertile ground, making it possible for settlers like the deBragas to cultivate crops and establish livelihoods. Frank and Goldie deBraga were instrumental figures in establishing the family's presence in Churchill County as part of the pioneer family in the region. They laid the foundation for what would become a lasting legacy. Their children and grandchildren have continued their work maintaining the family ranch and upholding the values by their ancestors. The family's dedication to their land and community has been unwavering, with each generation contributing to the ranch's success and well-being of the community at large. The deBraga family ranch has been a significant part of agricultural landscape in Nevada for over a century. In recognition of their enduring contribution, the ranch was honored by the Nevada Appeals 2017 Centennial Ranch and Farm Awards Program. This award reflects the family's commitment to preserving their heritage and supporting the local agriculture community. Today, we are fortunate to have Lester deBraga with us. Since 2022, Lester has served on the board for the Truckee-Carson Irrigation District, TCID, furthering his family's tradition of community involvement and leadership. Lester is here to share insights into the deBraga family ranch, their legacy, and the values that have driven their success for over 100 years. Please join me in welcoming Lester deBraga.
Thank you. Well, I got asked to speak here, and I was a little reluctant at first, but I guess if I can't speak about my family and heritage, I guess nobody else probably can. But anyway, this whole thing started back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when my great-grandfather, Joe deBraga, which he came over searching for his brother who were born and raised in the Azores. And his brother came over earlier than him, so Joe came trying to find his brother. Wasn't sure where he went. He understood he was probably heading to California. So when he came over, my understanding, and Bunny, you might help, but he landed in New York. Got off the boat there in New York, and from the New York, then he wanted to come out west to California, and then he got on a train and rode the train and got off in Hazen, Nevada. And we never did find out whether he found his brother. He searched for him, but to our understanding, he never found his brother. But when he landed in New York, his last name was Braga. And when he got there, they added the D-E in front of Braga to make deBraga, and it's actually a small D-E and capital B. That's how we spell it, and it's been misspelled for quite some time. But that's how it's spelled. We're not 100% sure on what the D-E really meant. It's not from, we're some type of nobility is what we understood. And I'm not 100% sure. There's been a lot of research trying to figure that out. But anyway, that's how the name deBraga came. Now, whether his brother is still a Braga or was a deBraga, we're not 100% sure of that either. But there is some deBragas in search in California, and there's quite a few of it. And what's surprising is a lot of their names match our names. In other words, my dad, his brothers, Bob, Dennis, such. There's actually Bob deBraga, Dennis deBraga. You can find that name in California. We're not sure if it's part of our family. So it's kind of interesting that way. Anyway, so when he got off in Hazen, he ended up out in Ione and Berlin, out east, out here towards Austin. And the reason he ended up out there, he heard about the gold mining. And so that's where he ended up. And for many years, he was out there mining, and he met his future wife, Marguerite, and she was a Kennedy. And some things say that it went back to the Kennedys, which a lot of people are related to the Kennedys. you know, the well-known Kennedy family. But anyway, they go out there, they end up having 7 children and 4 daughters, 3 sons. And this flyer that's sitting in front of you, that was the flyer that was sent out when this project, the Newlands project, was built, this irrigation project that started Fallon, Nevada. He's seen that, and he decided he's going to come in and become a farmer. And so that's what enticed him to come to Fallon. And he came in 1916, and he came out and he settled in Stillwater. And the funny part, you know, sitting around listening to my dad and uncles and grandma and grandpa was, why did he settle in Stillwater? He could have settled anywhere, a lot better place than Stillwater. You know, because Stillwater, it's a beautiful place, but not the best of ground. There's a lot better farm ground around this valley than was in Stillwater. But anyway, that's where he settled, on 40 acres. And in 1917 is when it was finally approved. He had to go through the process to get the ground approved through the government and all that. And 1917 is when he was established and it started farming. And that 40 acres still, as of today, is in the family. Myself and my son are currently farming it. My dad owns it. My dad's still alive. He's still here, Ted. And so anyway, that ground is still in the family. So it's been in the family now for 108 years. They, in turn, my grandpa, great-grandpa Joe, he had, actually again, he had 4 daughters, 3 sons, and you probably may know a lot of them. On the daughter side, they had the Heibels. Cecilia Heibel was married to Clyde Heibel. Heibel's a well-known name around Fallon. He had Cecilia Miller. I'm sorry, Cecilia Miller. She was married to Cecil Miller. And if you guys know Dave Miller, Frankie Miller, Mick Miller, any of those people, that's their children. They had quite a few. Amelia Heibel, I thought she was the Heibel side. Then you had Osgood. You had Marguerite Osgood and the Osgood family. They since passed up, and then they were around much anymore, around Fallon, but they were around. And then also you had Kate Reynolds. If a lot of you had a well dug back in the time, in the early years there, Tex Reynolds probably dug that well that's on your property. Most of the wells were dug by Tex. So anyway, and then on the son's side, you had my grandpa, Frank, who actually ended up taking over the farming. And he had a brother named John, right, who was a cattle buyer, did quite a bit of cattle buying and stuff around the valley. And also a brother named Manuel, who, if a lot of you guys probably knew him if you ever went down to Kent's Supply. He always worked in the mill. And his name was Shorty. And that's what's kind of comical. Every one of those kids had a nickname. Didn't hardly know him by the real name. There was Shorty, and there was Dutch was Heibel, AA was Miller, Hike was Osgood, and then on John, his brother, he was called Super Cheese, for whatever reason we called him Super Cheese, and then also, then there was Shorty. So anyway, that's how the family went, and then out of all those, Grandpa Frank settled and started the farming, kept the farming going on the 40 acres plus some more. They did a lot of, he ended up having 4 boys and a girl. You had Lyle, Dennis, Bob, Ted, and Patsy. And they all took part in the farming, and they did quite a bit of work around the valley, you know, custom work. They did a lot of custom harvesting. They did from one end of the valley, from Stillwater clear out to just below the Houghton Dam. They used to go out there on the river out there and help farm and harvest grain and stuff. They did a lot of it for the Charlie Frey, George Frey, and all them guys did a lot of that. And anyway, so they did that. They also had, I'll get back to Grandpa Frank when he married Goldie Norcott. And a lot of you guys know the Norcott family. They came here in 1917 from, I believe, somewhere down around Red Bluff, California, Corning, California, and they settled out in the beach area, what they call the Beach District, which out here kind of south of the Navy base. That's where they settled. Anyway, she was an Orchid, and that's when Grandpa Frank married her, and so our families combined deBraga and Orchid group. So anyway, they raised a lot of chickens and a lot of turkeys and a lot of hogs, and they sold most of the eggs and everything they raised. They brought them into town, I.H. Kent Supply Center is where most of everything that they raised and grew, whether it was alfalfa, whether it was eggs, whether it was poultry, whatever it was, that's where most of everything always went, was into the I.H. Kent Supply Center. So, you know, that a lot of history there goes on. And so anyway, out of Dennis, or Lyle, Dennis, Bob, Ted, and Patsy, they all raised their families, you know, mainly in Fallon, but Bob, he moved on and he loved cattle. So he was a cattle rancher. He spent his time a lot on big ranches, strictly cattle ranches, and mainly in Oregon, California area. Dennis, he did a lot of custom work, a lot of backhoe and harvesting, stuff like that. Didn't really pertain, you know, strictly to farming. And then Patsy, she married Bub Harold Weaver, and they ended up moving to Canada and raising most of the family there in Canada, still has family there. And then, so the only ones kind of stuck around and kept the project going, kept the farming going were Lyle and Ted. And when it all settled down, I guess at the end when came down to who's left, well, just I myself was the one that continued to farm the ranch. The other boys that were part of the, you know, my cousins and stuff, they decided to do other things. They didn't stick around to farm. And so currently as of today, my oldest boy, Trevor, he's helping me now. We're doing the farm. And a lot of the farming that we're farming some of the same ground that my grandpa Frank not only owned, but also leased and farmed. So some of it's been in the family for 70 plus years. And we're still farming some of the leased ground. Some of the Loft House property, some of the Parsons, Graham Miller property, some of that was farmed by my grandpa. Then my dad took it over, now I farm it. And I'm sure, I hope that Trevor continues the process. But otherwise, that's kind of what we do. You know, what we've grown over the years, they used to grow some sugar beets in the Fallon area down there in Stillwater. Did really well with the sugar beets, other than, you know, they were real high in sugar and such as that, but the labor got kind of intensive and kind of hard to get labor to put up the sugar beets. And then also Stillwater being real heavy clay soil, a lot of the soil would, when they harvest, would remain attached on the beet. And so they got docked quite a bit when they took it in. You know, they would dock them on their pay because there was more weight in the dirt than there was in the beet sometimes. So anyway, but Stillwater's a great place for that. But that kind of went out, you know, just didn't become profitable anymore. So now mainly alfalfa. We do grow wheat, barley, corn, teff. What else we do? Sedan grass, such as that. And, you know, them are just crops that we use now to rotate out of alfalfa, because alfalfa usually only lasts, as some of you know, hopefully 6 to 8 years, you know, maybe up to 10 years, and you have to rotate the small grains. We used to grow a lot of grain for wheat, for grain, and that's kind of come and gone because the price of the market kind of disappeared on us. So now if we do grow wheat, we mainly cut it and hay it, you know, you just bale it and use it for feed for cattle. And most of the hay, you know, around this valley tries to go to the dairies. It's kind of quality hay because of the weather conditions and such. But all of our hay currently for the last 14 years, has gone strictly out to the wild horses, the Mustangs that are out north of town here on Indian Lakes Road. So that's kind of where our main goal or effort has been towards the horses. So other than that, I don't know. There's lots of history, you know, where we go. if there's any questions or something, I'd be happy to answer them or such, but yes, sir.
So, Lester, you said Marguerite was a mechanic. Did I hear that right?
No. She was a Kennedy.
Oh, gotcha. I okay.
Yeah. She might have been a mechanic. Yeah.
So the other thing is, can you talk a little bit about the TEF? I've heard a little bit about it, but I'd like to know more.
Well, it came in here probably about 12, 15 years ago. It was a crop that they were trying to find something to take utilize less water, because our system of water, is kind of limited at times. So it was a crop that didn't require a lot of water. And so when it first came in, it was mainly used for hay, and we just swathed it and baled it and fed it. It was real kind of tender, soft quality to it, and the cattle enjoyed it really well, the horses too. And then they got into where it was making grain out of it, and which was then used to make bread, and it was high in glucose, Bob?
It's gluten-free.
Gluten-free.
Gluten-free, and that's the big kick in a lot of that.
Yeah, so it was gluten-free. And so that became quite a nice little market for us, but then, how anything goes, once people hear about it, and other places that start growing it, and so it's kind of now maybe on the way out here in Fallon. We just don't have close enough markets, is my understanding for it. People that grow it close to the market are doing a lot better with it than we can do on it. So you don't see much more of that being grown. Yeah. So most of the corn, you see a ton of corn being grown around about it. Almost every bit of it goes to silage, to the dairies. A little bit is raised for grain, but even then, that uses it with the dairies also. There's a little bit of hay that goes out. Most of the hay back in the years, 20 years ago, 25, went into California to the dairies, but now most of the hay and products that are being grown here seem to stay local. There's enough dairies and cattle here now that are utilizing the products that are being grown. There's still some, if it's real good quality, like alfalfa, so it still can go into California. We kind of changed our program where we don't worry about the quality for the dairies, because we do go to the horses, so it can get bloomy and a little ranker and such as that. So. Yes, sir.
So how does it work with giving the hay to the wild horses? Is that like a government program that they buy it, or someone who's just doing that to keep the herds up, or how does that work?
Well, it's a private contractor guy that has the facility up north here, but it is run by government. Government is where the money comes from, and they doing the roundup to try to ease the grazing on the rangelands. It's kind of out, they're kind of overgrazing and running the cattle off the ranges. And so what they've done, they've been out rounding some up, and then they bring them into this facility that's here. And this facility, what they actually do is they get the horses climatized to the feed, to the hay, because they're out in the range, they're mainly eating sagebrush and some rough grass and stuff like that. So they can't just jump right in and start feeding them real good hay, quality hay, because it kind of makes them sick, or can make them sick. So they get them climatized, get them all vaccinated, their feet trimmed and their manes trimmed, and they just do everything. They do quite extensive work. They stay here probably a good year and a half, and once that, they figure that they're ready to go out somewhere else to be turned back out on some private lands or something like that, they will leave this facility and go to other facilities or other places, some up towards Reno and Palomino Valley, and there's a lot that go into Oklahoma and such as that. But for the most part, right out there currently right now, there's over 5,000 head of horses out in this facility right here in Fallon right now. And so the government is where the money comes from. The private contractor is actually who we sell the hay to. We don't sell direct to the government, but that's where his money comes from. Yes?
Is there any place in Fallon that still sells the sap seed for a food product?
Well, Bob Gettle might be out. His brother John's the one who's interested in growing it. She's asking if there's any place that still grows teff for the product.
What's called Desert Oasis teff. and they still sell the product directly for those who want to do flour, for baking. You know, when you bake with teff, it's a lot flatter. Cookies and bread don't raise, but it's that gluten-free, which a lot of people are looking for.
Well, I think when the family first started growing teff out west of town by the skating rink, I toured the facility and I think I bought some at that one point. And maybe
Yeah, and it's still available. And so a teff seed, teff comes from, it's kind of the native grain of Ethiopia. And if you look at a teff seed, it's about the size of a strawberry seed. And so it's hard to handle, hard to clean, hard to process, and then it's tough to ship. And we're just on a good geographic location for it. So because teff is now starting to spread in many other agricultural areas.
Yes.
Where did you say that you can purchase that? The teff seed?
I can, at the end of their presentation, I can get you a card for Desert Oasis Teff. And they have an online source, and I just don't like the taste of the teff product, but everybody else does, so I don't have it memorized.
Thank you.
Yes.
During the craze a few years ago made the rounds in the valley and around this part of the state. Did you get caught up in the business of growing hemp?
We looked into it. Yeah, I mean, you know, when that first came out, he's asking if we got into the growing hemp. That was going to be a huge thing. At least that's the way it sounded. I mean, all of a sudden that came about, and in the hemp, you know, that's what they use to make a lot of rope and such as that. And then it's when you cut hemp early and such, it's got the oil and stuff that is good for pain medicine, painkiller, and such as that. But for some reason, there was so much of it being grown. In fact, I got some stories, you know, where people pretty much tore the whole ranches up and planted this hemp, and end up not selling an ounce of it. It's more of a, I don't know, we're not really sure what came of it, but nobody, one farmer here, local farmer, Prairie Ranch, they were growing it, and they had like 40 acres. Now I think they're down to maybe 1 acre, and they're just trying to sell little things of themselves, you know. But it's just something that came about, and everybody got excited. We got excited, had backers to help me get going, and I actually got the ground ready, furrows made, the whole works, and then nothing happened. So it just, I don't know, you know, this was kind of more of a, whether it was really a scam, but I think what it was there was so many people was going to grow it, it overflowed the market, and they really didn't need that much.
Lester, can you tell us about, it's a two-part question. First, you were talking about farm districts. You mentioned beach and Stillwater. So what is a farm district? And then focus in and take us back to what Stillwater was when your dad and Patsy were little, because it was its own community.
Yes.
And it was a county seat for a little
Yes.
while. So tell us about how Stillwater was as a community.
Yeah, well, back in time, I'm not sure when it first built, but Stillwater was the county seat of Churchill County. And they had the post office, they had the courthouse, they had the jail, they even had indoor swimming pool, they had motel. And what year, I'm looking at Dad there, what year they actually moved that county seat, but they actually lifted the buildings and rotated them in, and the courthouse sitting it out was in Stillwater. Dad, do you know what year that was?
I don't know, 1903.
1903? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that would have been prior to Dad and them being kids, of course, you know. But the town's still there. There's still people that live there. Used to be a little store. It was opening when I was a kid. We used to go there, and we used to swim in the indoor swimming pool. It was natural hot water, which Stillwater's full of geothermal water. That's still there, but the pool was, you know, already broke up, you know, from earthquakes and such, and so it's not being used now. But so really, the town itself is no longer. But there, you know, still, if you drive down there, there's a sign there, one of those big Nevada signs that talks about it and such, you know. But yeah, but yeah, it was quite, and I don't know what drove that, whether it was agriculture or mining, that actually made Stillwater, the way it was, the people that were there, so. Yeah, La Platte, yeah, that's true too. La Platte, if anybody heard of La Platte, it's out in the Stillwater Mountains. Or you guys don't know, Stillwater's at the base of the Stillwater Mountains, but it's just on the other side of the first mountain that you see coming down, in there like a little valley, it was a little town called La Platte. And it was actually a county seat too, before Stillwater. And that had to be done because of mining. And you go up there, I don't see any, there might be a few little remnants, broken down buildings or something. You might see some concrete or something from La Platte, but you don't see much up there now if you do go up there.
So do you think Stillwater, it's like you said, I don't know why he settled way out there.
Yeah.
Well, if that was a county seat, he thought it was probably settled in town. Was the Stillwater Farm District the first farm district, or did TCID make all the farm districts at once?
Well, original, before the project there was ever built, the Carson River is what ran through this valley. And so most of the settlement was along the river, which Stillwater is at the very end of the whole system. That's where the drainage is. That's just your natural drainage flows, south to northeast is where, your natural drainage flows. So most of your homesteads are along the river. Now why, I can't tell you how they developed the districts. That I've never understood. There's a guy sitting behind us here probably would know, Ernie probably knows, but that I do not know what developed. I just know that, the TCID, when we became a project to deliver water, then they made districts, Stillwater District, Beach District, Harmon District, Old River District.
And everybody got their own school.
Everybody had their own school, yes, that was the other thing. Yes, Stillwater has its own school. That's where the kids, Dad and Grandma, Grandma, she went to school, and Grandma deBraga, she went to school in the Beach District, but Dad and all the kids, they went to school at Stillwater Schoolhouse until they were in high school. Okay, and at that time there was, 40, 50, 60 kids actually going to school in Stillwater. Yeah.
Didn't they do dances at each one of the schools?
Oh yeah, they played ball against each other, just like us playing, baseball or something like that. Go play Sparks or Reno, they'd go play Beach District. So they actually that's how they did. They played each, like there was a regular conference or school districts and stuff. But the schoolhouse still sits there. The members are still living there. It's getting pretty slim now, and some of the interest is disappearing, but school is there and it's taken care of by the people who live in Stillwater. And we maintain it. The school district was able to get that from the school district, turned into Stillwater Community Group, and that's who's in charge of it now, takes care of it, and tries to maintain it, keep it going.
Hi, Lester.
Hi.
Well, when you're talking about the Stillwater School and you did sports and we played all the different districts, well, Fallon, of course, Oaks Park, they had their own big team and they couldn't believe, this is all playing softball, but when you play, of course, you got from the first graders on up to the 8th grade, all participated. Well,
Yep.
there were quite a few deBragas, and so by the time that the last years that Ted especially was playing softball, and we had actually been able to beat all the community schools.
Right.
But Oaks Park said we couldn't beat them.
Oh.
So we went in and we beat them.
Oh. Good. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we had girls, like I played on the team, and Artie Freeman, and we had the Start Kids, and the Weiseps, Bobby Weiseps, and Judy Weiseps. So the community was well looked after.
Right.
The kids, there was, I forget, in kids, there were about 5 boys that were very good athletes.
Yeah.
Patrick's group was also put into the Hall of Fame.
Right.
No, that was one of the big things, and like Barbara mentioned, the different schools would have dances, parties,
Right.
and invite people to
Yeah.
It was a real to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and always a big Christmas party for.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, one interesting thing too, like when Dad and them were kids, you know, they rode the horses to school and tied the horses up there at the school. And of course, they didn't live home too far away, but they'd ride the horses. And sometimes in the wintertime when ditches froze up, they'd ice skate down the ditch to the school and such as that. But it was quite interesting. And even as kids, they, you know, as they got into high school and stuff, they drove their own school bus. They got to drive the school bus and pick up the kids and take them into school and such as that. Dad got to it, and I know Dennis, some of them drove bus. But that was kind of a unique thing, something you'll never see today, you know.
As far as technology goes in farming, what would you say has been like the most beneficial, not only for our farm, but around the valley in terms of agriculture production?
The biggest thing in my time that I can say is the laser leveling, where we was able to flatten the fields, get them perfectly flat, so we don't have holes. Because especially in the heavy clay soils, if water stands, you just pretty much drown out. Your crop won't grow. And so I would think that was probably the biggest accomplishment in my time, is that, you know, just made farms so much easier and better. And then, of course, technology on all the new equipment. We used to all do small bales, you know, little 3-wire, 2-wire bales, and then they went to the big bale, and the swathers have so much changed. You used to cut around 2 to 3 mile an hour. Now we're doing 10 to 12 mile an hour cutting hay. A lot of that's due just being able to farm more ground, get across it quicker, get it up quicker, and such as that. So that's probably, you know, the main thing. Yeah, back in the time when Grout with them first started, you know, they were doing a lot of what they call poke and tie bales. You'd have to sit on the baler and actually put a slider board in to make the bale the right length, and they'd have to tie it by hand. You know, that used to go on and on and on. Now, you know, the adult does it itself. So yeah, but I would say the laser probably, I think, you know, a lot of farmers here probably say that's really changed this valley, you know. Anything else?
Well, Lester, I just want to say about the courthouse, there is a legend that they drug the courthouse into Fallon, but that's not true. The wood from the courthouse went to Weiss's, and they built the first old Mr. Weiss's house out of it.
Okay.
And then this courthouse down here was, you know, built here
Okay.
and not moved in,
Okay.
built on the spot.
Okay.
But there is a legend about how they went and stole the records and everything. And Handy Kent said that he does know that when they took it from the Platte over to Stillwater, some of the residents did go over there and remove the stuff.
I see.
But it didn't come in here. But my dad was born in 1900, and he had no birth certificate because between 1900 and 1904, something happened to most of the records. So I don't know whether they burned them along the way or what they did. Anyway, but there is the legend that they just went out and pulled it to town, and that didn't happen.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Well, I was able to do something, I guess. Thank you.